8.3 is the distance between 2 points. So with example 1, the figure shows a right triangle. Approximate the length of the hypotenuse, which is C, to the nearest tenth. The nearest tenth is 1 decimal place without using a calculator. So make sure you know without using a calculator, no calculator at all. But we are going to use Pythagorean theorem. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And we have a, b, and we've already labeled c. Now we just need to find the lengths of those legs. So we have 1, 2, 3 units there. So a is 3 squared plus b is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. So that is 5 squared equals c squared. So 3 squared is 9 plus 5 squared is 25 equals c squared. Okay, so let's go ahead and add those together. So 9 plus 25 is going to give us 34 equals c squared. Take the square root of both sides. So we have the square root of 34 is equal to c. But it said we can't use a calculator. So let's put this on a number line. Nothing extravagant. We're just going to put the square root of 34 there in the middle, and we're going to estimate about what that is. To do that, find a perfect square above and below 34. So if we look at above 34, there's 36. Take the square root of 36, and that is 6. And then below, well, just go below 6. The next number below 6 is 5. The number down here would have been the square root of 25. So the square root of 34 is between 5 and 6, which is going to be around about 5.5. So our answer here is simply about 5.5. Let's look at one more of those. It says right here, start out writing your formula. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Find your lengths. A is 2. We're going to square that. Plus b is 1, 2, 3, 4. Square that equals c, which is the hypotenuse, squared. Work that out. 2 squared is 4. Plus 4 squared is 16 equals c squared. Add those together. 4 plus 16 is 20 equals c squared, and take the square root. So the square root of 20 is equal to c. Again, go ahead and do your number line. Like I said before, nothing extravagant. We have the square root of 20 down here. We're going to figure out about where that is. Go directly above 20. The next perfect square above 20 is 25. Below 20, well, if we have the square root of 25, that's 5. The number directly below that is 4. So that's going to be the square root of 16 down here. Well, if we look between 4 and 5, that's going to be about 4.5. So our answer here is going to be about 4.5. Okay. Now then, here we have distance formula. The distance formula is derived from Pythagorean theorem. So anytime it tells you to find the distance using Pythagorean theorem, really, you can just use your distance formula. But on the same token, if at any point in time you do not remember what the distance formula is, you can always revert back and use Pythagorean theorem. Excuse me. So right here, the distance equals the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So let's apply that here. Francisca wants to find the distance between her house on one side of the lake and the beach on the other side. She marks off a third point, forming a right triangle as shown. The distances in the diagram are measured in meters. So let's look here. We have her house. We have the beach. We have those 2 points. Let's use the distance formula. It is x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So go ahead and put in your numbers. x2, well, we don't have anything labeled, but that's okay. It does not matter which one you pick as x1 and x2. Just pick one. So that's x1, y1 here, and that makes this x2, y2. They can be reversed as long as you're consistent. So if I have x2 here, that's going to be my 280 minus the x1, which is 10 squared, plus y2 is 164 minus y1, which is 20 squared. Now then, you don't have the greatest calculators, so we are going to work this piece by piece. 280 minus 10 is 270 squared, plus 164 minus 20 is 144 squared. Go ahead and square each of those individually. Here come your big numbers. We have 270 squared, which is 72,900, plus 144 squared, and that is 20,736. Go ahead and add those together. And we get the square root of 93,636. And your last step there is just to go ahead and take the square root, and that's going to give you 306. It said that this was measured in meters, so our final answer there is 306 meters. Okay, let's look at one more of those. Dominique wants to find the distance between his house on one side of the park and his school on the other side. He marks off a third point, forming a right triangle, as shown in the diagram. The distances in the diagram are measured in yards. This one says use Pythagorean theorem to find the distance. Well, even if we start with Pythagorean theorem, we are going to end up in the end using the distance formula, but that's okay. So let's start off using Pythagorean theorem. We have our triangle here. So if I go from this point to this point here, I can't really count the spaces because these are not going by ones. But if this is my A and this side is my B, well, to find that, I could take for that A piece and subtract. And if I have right here is 350 minus 50 from right here. Well, that's going to give me a total of 300, and then I'm squaring it. And then I'm going to add, well, for B, if I'm up here at 450 minus down here at 50 squared, that's going to give me 400 squared equals c squared. This also equals c squared. So let's just look at that for a second. If I were to actually find this coordinate would be 350, 450. And this coordinate here would be 50, 50. So if I label those as my x2 minus x1 and my y2 minus y1, well, x2 is 350, so this is my x2, y2, this is my x1, y1, and it all works out. You're using your distance formula because the next step right here is to take the square root of the 300 squared plus 400 squared. So like I said before, it does not matter if you start out with the distance formula or if you start out with Pythagorean theorem, you're going to end up with the same answer in the end. So if I work this out piece by piece, I have the square root of 90 1,000 plus 160,000, that's equal to C. Let's add those together, and that's going to be the square root of 250,000 equals C. Once you take the square root of that, you get 500 equals C. So my answer is 500 yards, because in the problem, my units were yards. Like I said a million times already, you can start off with the Pythagorean theorem, just like this one. You're going to end up using the distance formula anyway, because that's where it comes from, or you can go back to here and just start off with the distance formula. Whichever is easiest for you is the way you can go. Either way is perfectly fine. You'll get the right answer if you did it all correctly. And that's it.